オッペハンターズ
In this very non-canon season 2, Skene is still trying to find out his feelings for Mocha and the other girls, even though it's obvious he loves Mocha only. Along the way, he meets Kokwa Shizun, Mocha's sister, who is determined to permanently bring out the inner Mocha, as she views her as her real sister. In this season, there are many filler episodes that mean absolutely nothing, with some sprinkled in canon episodes. Welcome to the world of panty shots, useless Ruby, bad songs, child fan service, and inconsistencies.
ストーリー
This story is so much worse than the first season. It just felt like they're trying to fill space and nothing really happened. Every episode felt like it took hours to watch and it was just draining. I know I mentioned this in the last review, but the manga is so amazing and has such a great story that it just feels so disappointing to watch this.
Yeah, the story's really bad. It genuinely feels like no care went into it and it was just panty shot quota. As long as we meet that, it's a good episode. And when it did develop a plot in the last 2 episodes, those ones just made me rage-induced. So it's not really any better. So I just hated the entire thing.
And this story is nothing. The story is 90% filler that nothing matters, and if said filler was enjoyable to watch as like one-off comedy episodes that they were trying to go for, it would have been fine, but even for that, it feels like it's just nothing happening for 25 minutes, which feels like, as Monk said, hours to get through. And even when Monk pointed out a canon episodes, those episodes felt like nothing either, and they were equally as boring as the filler episodes.
ファンサービス
This season can seriously be pretty much summed up as, oops, all panty shots. There's some nips every now and then, but just feels like they're there. It's literally, you can't go without 10 seconds of seeing a panty shot in your face. You can't. You would just have, if you took a shot every time you saw a panty shot, you'd be dead within 2 minutes.
This season technically upped the fan service by having the nipples, which were in season 1, but they honestly don't look that great, and they're only shown like once every 3 episodes for like 20 seconds max. And it's just a constant barrage of panty shots, and probably even worse than season 1. And I've made the analogy that, like, you like eating pizza, but if you eat pizza every single day, you're going to get real tired of it.
The fan service was just mostly panty shots, and honestly, it got very obnoxious after the first episode, even more than the first season. Many of the panty shots made absolutely no sense angle-wise. Like, you could be looking down at the girls, and you would still somehow see their panties. The worst part of the fan service was the sexualization of Yukari. It was so bad this season, and they were so self-aware of it too. It felt so wrong to be seeing Yukari, a 12-year-old, in a sexual manner with her panties showing and constantly throwing herself sexually and talking sexually to Mocha and Skune. It was super uncomfortable to watch this anime and its fan service, especially with that.
Just to add on to what Monk said, it makes it 1,000 times worse that they acknowledge it in the show. Literally, Skune is like, we're diving into kitty diddling here. And in my mind, that makes it so much worse.
キャラクターズ
So in the season 1 review, I had the complaint of the characters being basic and very surface level without much depth, and it's made so much worse in this season. Because of the lack of an actual story, the characters don't grow or do much of anything important in this season. Ruby went from having my most interesting storyline of season 1 to just being a gag character who barely has any real lines throughout the 13 episode run. Even Mocha, who got the most screen time of the season, I feel really didn't have any depth this time around. And a point that I want to touch on is Skune. Skune is a very bland protagonist that I don't really care about generally, but in the story arc of the last 2 episodes, I grew to despise this motherfucker. He completely blows off Inner Mocha and is like, no, I gotta get the Outer Mocha back. But it's been established multiple times that Outer Mocha isn't really Mocha, so the message that kind of gets pushed there is kind of fucked, and it just pissed me off so much.
None of the characters had development, with the somewhat exception of Inner Mocha developing feelings more for Skune as the season goes, especially towards the end. It's sad to see Ruby just become a gag character, when in the manga she proves a more significant role. These characters just became bland after a while, and I just started to care less and less about them, even my fave Mizore, but we'll get to that later. And just like what Jason said, I hate Skune. He's hypocritical, he's a liar, he's just a horrible person. I hate him.
The girls are pretty much the same, except with way less personality. They feel really watered down. Like y'all have said, Ruby is literally just a gag, and Geen, well, he's there for 2 seconds, so I hope you didn't like him. Skune becomes downright infuriating to me. Dude seriously is a little bitch ass, and if you find Outer Mocha better than Inner Mocha, we can't associate.
エンターテイメントバリュー
This season was not entertaining at all. The fights were basically only 2 seconds in the season. The jokes fell flat most of the time, and any running gag was just annoying to see constantly over and over. If I could have just covered my ears whenever they attempted to make a joke, I would. Because everything about this sucked.
The season is just plain boring and bad. Coco is the only interesting character, in my opinion, and the only time I found myself liking the anime, but she was easily thwarted every single time, so there was no joy to be had. The episodes didn't feel like 22 minutes, they felt like straight up 2 hours, and like we've said before, there's literally no plot here, except for the last 2 episodes, but those are rage-inducing, so that's not entertaining either.
No, I can't necessarily say that season 1 was all that entertaining either, but somehow season 2 made it a lot worse. And I basically agree with everything that they said. The story, what little there was of it, was boring. The combat and fight scenes was super boring and was even shorter than what we got in season 1. And whatever laughs were given were more laughs of pain. Like, you can't really give the series credit for us laughing because we're just laughing at how absolutely terrible of a time that we're having.
ベストガール
Alright. Okay, so I wrote out a whole section on why Kuremu was best girl, but I just threw that in the trash because I thought about it. I'm doing a big brain here. I'm giving it to Cocoa. She was the only part of this season that I actually liked, and she's a true Mocha supporter. I was rooting for her, honestly, but of course she didn't win because everyone's like, oh, Cocoa was evil. No. Cocoa was the true bitch here. Fuck you, Skune.
My best girl is still Inner Mocha, but that doesn't mean much because she's honestly less of a character in the season than It's a Long Story Ruby is. She just shows up at the end of every episode, says know your place, and then leaves. So even during the parts of the series where Inner Mocha was outside and they were either separated or Outer Mocha was gone, Inner Mocha still didn't get any screen time because Skune's bitch ass just blew her off and was like, no, I gotta get the fake one, fuck you. And even during the parts where you get screen time with Inner Mocha when Outer Mocha disappeared at the end, she acted very out of character, which really bothered me. So all in all, this season sucks.
My best girl is Mizore, just like last time. But It was really disappointing to see how they portrayed her in this season, because instead of a bit of development with her feelings and everything, they just minimized her to the trait of stalker woman. It just became an old gag they kept trying to pull every single episode, but I hated it. It makes her such a little character that barely matters. And I just believe she deserves more, because I love her as a character. Like Jason said, fuck this season.
Final score.
My final score is a fat 1 out of 10. I might have hated this season more than any other anime I've seen, honestly. There's absolutely nothing redeemable about this. At least Smartphone had some moments where the absurdity of it genuinely made me laugh, but this season is just pain. As I said before, every laugh of Rosario Season 2 is also packed with the serving of suffering. Avoid this one like your life depends on it.
Okay. So originally, I was going to rate this a 2 out of 10. I was going to be generous because I love the opening. It is so great. It is the saving grace of this anime. But not even the opening could save the season. Every single episode went by and I hated it. That brings me to actually rating this as a 1 out of 10. The season was horrible to watch. I never want to watch it again because of how draining it was and how stupid and infuriating the story was. It was horrible. Period.
What would you give the manga out of 10?
It's been a while. Probably 9. 9.5. It was really good. The fucking difference.
I didn't expect to give this a 1 out of 10 going into it, but it definitely earned a 1 out of 10. This season is so much worse than the first one, and it's just a bad season of anime in general. It was a very hard watch and painful to sit through. The only redeeming qualities are the opening and Kokua, and like the 10 minutes of Intermocha. When Jason brought up when we were watching through this that Smartphone was better than this, I didn't agree at first. But then, thinking about it, I agree, Smartphone was, like, boring bad, but this was boring and rage-inducing bad, which is so much worse. So it deserves this 1 out of 10.
And so, that brings our official Oppai Hunters rating to a unanimous 1 out of 10. Like I said, avoid this series. If you can do anything else, please do. It's not worth it.
Read the manga.
Yeah, go read the manga. I guarantee that'll feel like less time than sitting through season 2. Alright, you better like this video. You better subscribe. You better leave us a comment saying that you liked the video. Or else we're gonna make you watch season 2. That's it. Bye-bye. Wee!
Wee!